Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space. I hope you enjoy. Story number 1, Starlight, written by Cold Fire Night. No one paid attention when the first star winked out. We didn't really notice the next one either, or the one after that. Probably not even when the 10th one did, because they were all stars that held no practical value for us. The only reason we knew anything had happened was because we left scientific observation satellites in those systems, which reported that their stars had gone dormant. Even then, we thought that it was some kind of technical glitch, that the satellites must be malfunctioning, and that there was no need to investigate because we knew that stars do not simply stop burning. We later learned that was only a partial truth. They do not stop burning on their own. In all of our travels, we had never made contact with another sentient race, so we left solar systems untouched unless they could provide us with the resources or territory needed to continue our endless expansion into the galaxy. Not surprisingly, it wasn't until the 11th star darkened that we took notice. Star AK-10 did not have any notable planets or resources, but the star itself had intriguing properties, and we had established a research station in its system. That station was the first to witness the star go out. The personnel reported that radiation spiked before the light disappeared. Then the star was just gone. After that, there was nothing. We sent a team of 3 rescue crafts, the Innocence, the Mercy, and the Herald, to recover the crew and investigate the situation. With no idea of what to expect, when we arrived outside the system and scanned, we found nothing. No debris, no signs of radiation, no station, no star. It was all gone, like it had never existed at all. We only found the empty blackness that we believed existed between galaxies, and we were afraid. Despite that fear, we wanted to learn what had happened, so the Innocents moved into the system to investigate. Shortly after entering the system, communications with Innocents ended abruptly, and our tracking systems could no longer detect her. There were no signs of violence. She was simply gone. The Herald's captain dropped a surveillance drone at the system's edge to continue observation, and ordered an immediate withdrawal from the closest solar system to determine their next course of action. Mercy and Herald plotted 2 return courses for home, then waited a full day, hoping the Innocents would return or contact them. They launched on separate paths for their home port when the feed from the surveillance drone disappeared, stopping in each solar system they passed only long enough to drop a drone. The Herald arrived in Augury Station 6 days later, but Mercy never arrived. Augury Control reported it had received signals from 4 drones tagged as belonging to Mercy, but the last of those signals had ended 2 days prior, and it had only lasted 2 minutes before going silent. The Herald's 7 drones had also been vanishing, with only 1 still functioning when Herald arrived. By this time, reports had been coming in of other stars going dark and loss of communication with planets. The following day, the Herald's final drone ceased transmitting, but Augury also made contact with an unknown object that was alarmingly close to the station. The object slowly approached Augury and was eventually identified as a ship, but not of any design that was ours. It was colored dark, almost invisible in space, and built of straight lines and sharp angles. Herald was sent out to investigate as the ship ignored all attempts at contact. Once it reached visual range, we saw that the vessel wasn't colored dark. It looked to have been burnt. Herald held pace with the vessel as it continued to approach Augury when the station received a weak signal. "This is the Terran explorer vessel Aether. We are explorers and have traveled from another dimension." We were all amazed. All this time with no contact, and with another race now, they've been come for us from another reality. "We have suffered a catastrophic, uncontrolled dimensional re-entry when our trance drive failed, dropping us into your dimension. I'm so sorry." There was a pause long enough to make us think that it had ended. before it continued. Our re-entry broke the barrier, and your reality is collapsing. There's nothing we can do. End of story. Story number 2. She Has Arrived, written by Looney123. The thick doors clunked open, begrudgingly welcoming the nearly unresponsive pile dragged into the bridge by its forced companions. The captain smoothly rotated his chair to take in the sad specimen. When they had captured it, it had been armored with truly spectacular equipment, an obviously elite soldier, and quite a valuable catch. But nothing had been gained of value yet. Days of interrogation that crossed the line to barbarism, and still nothing. And now they had run in with another human ship. Judging by its downright diminutive size, information would flow much easier from its pilot, even if any information was low value at best. But first, one last thing to try. The captain raised himself off his seat and plodded his way over to the captive, held upright by 2 Marines flanking him. The human's eyes wandered around the bridge slowly, without much aim, dazed as he was, until they met the captain's gaze. They remained quite locked after that. The captain spoke, and the bridge translated. You are resilient, to physical pain at least. However, I think even you are not completely invulnerable. At the challenge, the human planted his feet more firmly, and almost stood from its own effort. Nothing you can do can make me speak of anything worth speaking about. Although I can always remember the story about my dog again, if you want to hear it. The human slurred, giggling through the swollen lip and several recently missing teeth. I am not going to do anything to you, the captain rebutted, with a facade of genuine confusion. I just had the luck of running into another human ship, and quite a puny one at that. I'm going to take it, and you're going to get a different perspective of what you've been through. Only this time, upon a civilian. Humans care about that thing, don't they? He finished with a cruel flutter of his cilia. Even if the human couldn't read his body language, the message was clear enough. The human's eyes became more focused, stance strengthening as it shrugged its arms to try and loosen its captive's grips. I swore an oath before God when joining the Holy Navy. I shall not break to a heathen, even at the cost of an innocent life, it stated. The captain held the stare for another few moments before abruptly turning back towards the main view screen. That is acceptable. Bring it up here so that it can see the capture with its own eyes. He instructed the Marines. They forcefully maneuvered the human towards the view screen. The captain had already taken in the human scrap they called a vessel. Embarrassingly small. It consisted of little more than a large cockpit with several relatively long arms attached evenly around. The arms had unknown equipment along them, several hinges along them as well. Currently folded up, they bent back inward and down towards the capsule holding the pilot. To be honest, the captain was dumbfounded as to how it had gotten this far into space. That made little difference to the obvious course of action, however. Move to that ship, the captain ordered. At this ship's movement, the arms of the human vessel began to unfold. The human, consistently struggling against his escort, made his way up to the view screen and finally looked at it. The human collapsed. Only held up by the surprised Marines on either side of him, the human started to tremble, its eyes flickering back and forth from fixing on the human vessel floating in nothingness and the wildly flickering across the room without seeing anything in it, only to fix on the vessel again a moment later. Its mouth flapped open and closed, releasing random noises approaching animalistic and nothing at all. All eyes on the bridge were torn from what they were doing to watch this. Finally, the human broke from its state. Suddenly, the human leapt to its feet, shoved off the Marines to one side, and desperately tugged against the other towards the crew members manning the bridge. Communications! Where is your communications? It screamed before being struck in the head by a Marine still holding tight to its arm. Now, the human went totally limp. A few seconds later, it stirred, waking up to feet pressing down against the floor instead of arms to keep it off of it. it resumed babbling, which the translation software dutifully pressed on. It's here. They wouldn't send. It's here. They sent it. They. God have mercy upon me. I've kept God. They sent it. It's here. The captain had become slightly unnerved. Stop staring at the human. Back to your business. I want more information about the ship, he barked. The crew spurred back into action and quickly produced results. Captain, there's an amount of energy from the ship. It's incredible. The captain stomped over to the prone human. I want you to tell me what that ship is. If you don't, you will beg for your previous conditions before long. The human was silent for a moment, then snapped its head towards the captain's glaring visage. It's her. I don't want to know about the pilot. I want to know about the ship. Why does it require so much energy? The human was quiet for a moment before whispering up to the captain. Ships are considered female, and it's her. He strained out. At that, the human went limp again, voluntarily this time. Lying on the floor, eyes blank, the human gave his own eulogy. I have done my duty to God, and go to him now. His angel shall lead me through all, and I will willingly follow. May these heathens perish into everlasting punishment. She is God's sword, and I will feel not the sharpness of her blade. Amen. The captain held his concerned look over the human for another moment before resolutely turning again towards the view screen. Captain, our sensors have reached their maximum readings. That vessel is holding an impossible amount of energy. No matter. The unbendable will not be destroyed by a ship that could easily fit its nozzle into one of our jets. Combat alert! A sense of urgency filled up the bridge. The human vessel hadn't moved since the start of the encounter other than to unfold its arms. It still sat looming in the expanse, waiting. With the shift in the ship, the human vessel once again moved into action. The arms which had unfolded to arch straight forward contorted again. This time, they ended up fully extended directly towards the ship. The vessel also began to float towards them. The human chose this time to once again have control over his body, leaning his head up to get a better view of the captain. He called out, You call the ship unbendable? The captain turned from the screen to face the human. It had a mad grin on its face. Yes, it is. The human started to deeply chuckle at that. The human vessel was now getting closer, too close to the captain's reckoning if the energy readings were correct. I want a hole through that ship now. His words were too late. In an instant the vessel vanished from view. Blocking it was nothing. Not nothing. Nothingness incarnate stood between the two ships, and it was approaching their ship. As the captain stood, watching his permanent grave fly towards him as the human vessel slowly escaped its pool, the human chuckled again. End of story. I would quickly like to thank the T5 channel members and Patreons. Caspar Arnholtz, Cam Maxwell, Barky, Lord Azrakal, It's Difficult to Pronounce, Dragzoon WRE, Holly's Sister, Arcadian. Thank you very much.